Packer Nation, and welcome to another edition of Absolute Packer Podcast. We're on episode 58, and I'm entitling it, "And We're Back," because we had a little hiatus for a few weeks there. Just kind of life got in the way, but we're back, and we're going to get back into it. So I just wanted to let everybody know that we're still around, we're still here, but sometimes you got to do adulting and all that kind of stuff. So,
are you going to give a shout out to Carlos?
Carlos Knight?
I guess so.
That's right. He's the Bernie Burner account. We already got inside jokes going on. No, we had a spirited discussion before this, but no, we're all good. Actually, if you could enlighten me though, Elliot, that was from YouTube. Where was that from?
Yeah, that was on YouTube.
That's okay.
Awesome. And it was literally like right before we got on, so like it was like a half hour ago.
Okay.
So it's like, Hey, where's the next episode?
Yeah.
So I kind of want to reply and be like, here it is.
Yeah. There you go. So I know we have a growing listener contingent, and people do want to hear about us, which is good to know. We're just kind of a homegrown operation, as we say. We do it because we love it. So it's good to hear things like that.
Well, I want to reply back, and I want to say, what did you want to? Did you? Because I could just go on by myself. I'll be like, do you just want the idiot to talk, or what do you say, the IT guy? Do you just want the IT guy? They'd be like, no, we don't want that guy at all. He just wants to be a libertarian and.
All right, stay on target. That's like the Star Wars thing. Okay, so
you look like you're shrinking out of your screen.
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't even have that up. I'm not wearing pants. No, yes I am. Move this down a little bit. Okay.
I'm not wearing
that should be the title. I'm not wearing pants. There you go. Boom.
Nice. Okay, so just real quick, like I said, we were out for a few weeks, so I think we missed a few games, but we're just going to hop into where we're at now, which is the Panther game just happened, and we beat them. What was it, 24-16? Last minute, or not even last minute, last second stand against Christian McCaffrey at the goal line, which is nice. But how did we kind of get here? Well, the Packers are now 8-2 going into the bye, which is great. I'm stunned that they're 8-2, to be honest with you. Now they could be, all kidding aside, they could be. It would be as easy for them to be 10-0 as it would to be, 6-4.
Yeah, they had a lot of close matchups. Yeah.
They got blown out in the LA Chargers game, which that was really the only one.
Yeah, because even that Eagles game,
it was close.
They're kind of in it.
Yeah,
But it was the only one. But there are certain things that have kind of trickled down from some of these losses. The Philadelphia loss. Let's talk about the pressure. Like, we were getting exorbitant amount of pressure on opposing quarterbacks. Since then, I think we're the third worst pressure rate in the whole league.
Really?
Which blows me away. I saw stats like that too, and I'm like, yeah, and you believe it because you see it, but
right. And then San Diego comes against us, and they have a 4-man front that just completely dominate our offensive line, which, for the most part this year, they've been pretty resilient and pretty good. But David Bakhtiari looked horrible. Every single one of those linemen played one of their worst games in their career.
At the same time.
At the same time. And there were a few things that came from that San Diego game for me that really kind of stand out, especially as we head here into a very important stretch against San Francisco. Yeah. They were able to get pressure with their best 2 rushers on the inside. And they were getting pressure anywhere. But what they would do is they would line up their 2 best rushers, Bosa and Ingram, over the right side on Turner and Blaga, and they confuse the shit out of them and then get to Rodgers. We go up against our next opponent against San Diego. They have D Ford, Nick Bosa, Eric Armstead, and DeForest Buckner. They have.
Oh, you said San Diego. You mean San Francisco?
San Francisco now, correct. Our next opponent is San Francisco. As we get to the bye here, I see that game being really troublesome, just because of what we've had to deal with really good pass rushes and how we've counteracted them, which has been, getting bleeding pretty good. I'm really worried about this game. I really am. I just, before we came on, Monday Night Football, San Francisco and Seattle, and San Francisco was just all over Russell Wilson. It wasn't even pretty. So
yeah, their front seven, the entire front seven is awesome.
Yeah, it's going to be a really troublesome game, and they're going to bring some more video footage for our opponents to scheme for us as we progress here in the season and hopefully the playoffs, where they can use that and beat us. So.
But we can do the same. We got the bye. I mean, we're going to do the self-scouting, and we're going to, hopefully put in. I don't know what the heck they're going to do. We're already kind of bouncing around, but hey, it's been 3 weeks. Let's get our training wheels back on. No, I'm just kidding. Actually, I just lost my train of thought. So yeah, the training wheels just flew off. Like the putting together, like the defense. That's what I was going. I'm sorry. They started out the year, the Packers defense, and they looked gangbusters. First 2.5 to 3 games, and then all of a sudden they started giving up. Basically you could run all over them all the time. They had a really small front. I mean, Blake Mark. We can get into all the moving parts about what's going on with this run defense. But I'm hoping that during the bye they do something to something tangible, something, I'll say it, substantial, to shore up that run defense. I don't know what the heck it's going to be, but they got to do something. If they need to play more,
go ahead, Eddie. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, if they need to play more, you were saying during the game in the Slack feed, the game time feed during this is for you, Jeremy, during the LA game, that they barely play any base defense, which is true. They play their base defense is basically nickel, and that's what a lot of teams are. There's one linebacker, not two inside linebackers. But I mean, if you can't stop the run, you can't stop anything. Because then they start play action. The safeties have to come up, all this, that, or the other. So I mean, if they truly need to either, I'm not saying they're going to start playing with two inside linebackers all the time, but they might have to start doing that more. What other big bodies can they stick up front?
Well, they don't have anybody internally, but today they did have 3 free agent defensive linemen in for visits. There are 3 big guys. I mean, they're all over 315 pounds. So they are looking at this the same way as I'm looking at this, that they need big bodies that can hold up and take on blocks and keep Blake Martinez clean and keep Adrian Amos clean and keep whoever they have in the box, whether it's Abraham Campbell. Now, yesterday he played a lot in the box. They need to keep those guys clean and let them make plays. Because right now, the problem that they're having is they're getting blown off the ball because Kenny Clark is getting worn out. I mean, that is plain as day. He had a really good game yesterday. He had one of his better games of the year.
He played great yesterday.
Right. But he also played 86% of the snaps. And I don't know if that's sustainable. I really, truly don't, because of what he has to go through to play all 63 of the 73 snaps yesterday. He's getting consistently double teamed. Dealing with 2 behemoth offensive linemen. They're just pounding on him down after down after down.
He's got a few lingering injuries. I think he's got a calf injury and or shin injury and something else. Might be ankle. So to your point, Jeremy, I read somewhere the other day that Kenny Clark is playing the most snaps of any defensive tackle or nose tackle in the entire league.
That's worrisome.
It is. You can't keep up at that pace. No. Thank God he's still really young, but
well, he is. But I think he's getting older. And just because the last 2 years he ended the years all injured, and I think that has to go back to the fact that he does play a lot of snaps. He is receiving a lot of the offensive lineman's attention, and it wears down on you, just like Mike Daniels. I mean, we kind of talked about Mike Daniels too, previous Packer. What led to his demise. And I think it was the fact that he was constantly being pounded and his body just gave up, and I worry about that with Kenny Clark. Can his body withstand all of this pressure that he's consistently getting the offense's, best blocking scheme to take care of him? And then they don't really have to worry about anybody else because Dean Lowry is getting double teamed. It's right now, the manpower is not there up front to be a good run defense. I'm telling you, if they get one big body in there that can hold up against blocks, that defense will improve. Mm-hmm. Because what's going to happen is this defense right now is predicated on the pass rush, getting on 2nd and long, 3rd and longs, and just being able to only worry about that. So what you have to do now is you have to stop teams on 1st and 2nd down from running the ball and gashing them for 8, 10, 12 yards. And you have to make them 2nd and 9, 3rd and 8. You have to make these downs where you have no chance to run the ball. You can only pass it. And then you put that strength right back into our defense, because that is the strength, is the two Smith brothers getting after the quarterback. So, that's why it's important that we get this run defense kind of ironed out, because it all plays back and it all ties back to the grand scheme of things of what the strength of this defense is. And that is our pass rush.
No doubt.
In certain downs. So.
Yeah, to your point, it's like when I look at the starting defensive line, it's basically the same as what it was at the start of training camp. And I mean, Lowry played pretty well. He probably benefited from, even though Mike Daniels was worn down, he probably benefited from playing with Mike Daniels. He was playing to get a contract extension, which he got. I'm talking about last year, playing up into this year for Lowry. So he had the benefit of Kenny Clark and Mike Daniels. Mike Daniels was worn down, but Mike Daniels is still a worn down. Mike Daniels is still probably above average, I should say. So you lose Daniels, and then you have a little bit of a drop off there, and then Lowry gets his payday. I'm not saying that he's dogging it or something. Now he's got it, but he's been a disappointment. He's not holding up that well, Lowry. Montravius Adams is who he is, and then Kenny Clark, like you said, he's getting double teamed on every stinking play.
That is where the problem is. You just mentioned the name Montravius Adams. He was the guy that was supposed to replace Mike Daniels. And yesterday he played 15 out of the 73 downs. I mean, there was no injury concern there. So what is the point then of having him on the roster if he's not even being able on the field for half the downs? They have to fill that role there, and they have to fill it with somebody who can be on the field. What's the point of
now, so they're not putting him in there because he's hurt, but also because he's ineffective.
He's ineffective, right?
Okay.
That was their replacement for Mike Daniels, and so far it has failed.
Yeah, and it's a trickle down. Like I said, you lose Daniels, and you replace him with a guy who's not as good, and that trickles down to Lowry, and then Kenny Clark's playing way more snaps, yada yada yada.
And then blockers are getting to the second level and getting their hands on Martinez, and
Martinez, look. I get that, and he's AJ Hawk 2.0, and he's AJ Hawk where AJ Hawk probably should have been drafted. So in a way, it's like we used to dog on AJ Hawk because they're like, God, he was a 6th overall pick or whatever, and he doesn't live up to that billing, and that was definitely true. But then you get a guy like Martinez he was picked in the 4th round. He's probably playing at about what a 4th round. But I saw some stuff from Aaron Nagler, and she said TV too, and he said, Pettin's scheme doesn't do any favors for Martinez, which
exactly.
is
exactly.
But these are the things that GM and the defensive coordinator still have to know. So you wonder why they just don't value. If you're not going to have a decent sized defensive line, which they have a pretty athletic but not very big, like you said, then you better have at least one, maybe not all pro, but Pro Bowl inside linebacker. One. You don't have to have 2, but they have a guy. And then they have a guy who's a little bit less than that.
And I guess that's the point I've been trying to make.
Martinez is being set up to fail, but at the same time, he's just not that good anyway.
It's a little bit of both. Yeah. But like you said, if you're not going to value the linebackers, then make sure that your defensive line kicks ass. Yeah. Like all 3 or 4 guys, whatever it's a 3-4, 4-3, whatever, make sure those guys kick ass, and they don't. They have one guy that's truly a defensive lineman, Kenny Clark, and he's the only one that's kicking ass, and he's wearing down.
I think they were banking on Lowry taking a step. I mean, it makes sense. They gave him a contract extension, right?
Right.
A pretty big one, and he didn't. In fact, you could say he's regressed. So that's you do have to kind of bank on improving from within, especially when you sign a guy like that, and then you're banking on Montravius Adams. Is this his 2nd or 3rd year? Third year. Yep. You're banking on him finally getting it. So it's it's kind of like they swung and missed on both those guys.
Yeah, but this goes back to my original thought though of before the season ever began, they needed the perfect storm, and they needed guys to actually play above their capability level. And right now they're not getting that. So how do you get that? Well, you know what? Next year we have to be able to hit on our draft picks again, and it's really difficult right now with the way this team is constructed for anything to change massively.
Yeah, I agree.
The only way that they're going to be able to do that is if they just throw everybody 8-9-man boxes and just say beat us in the pass, because how
And they can easily because, man, the amount of guys, here's I'd like to kind of talk about this for a little bit, and hopefully we can get into the Panther game a little bit, but and just other aspects of the team, the other sides of the ball, special teams and offense. But anyway, this bend but don't break. You hear that over and over and over, and yeah, I kind of get that, but at the same time, I go, there's guys against the Panthers. I'm not talking just about against the Chargers. Against the Panthers, I mean, they got tight ends that are just running wide open. They got receivers, like you mentioned this, Jeremy, crossing routes and shallow routes going like that. Kill this team. Now, part of it, not all of it, but part of it is they don't have a linebacker who can cover. The best linebacker they have on the team in that respect is Blake Martinez, and he's not nearly good enough. And where they swung and whiffed again was Oren Burks. He can't get on the field. That guy is basically a healthy scratch, and they thought he was going to be the covering linebacker, but he can't get on the field. And then, the other guy who's not helping is Josh Jackson, second-round pick who's healthy scratch now. So you got 2 second-round picks from 2 years they're doing nothing. I mean, it's not like they're doing a little bit, they're doing nothing. That is not helping. But the way guys just run free compared to what it's that bend but don't break. They play very well in the red zone. They do. I'll give them that. I'll give them credit there. But, man, they are living on the edge. And it looks a lot like Dom Capers' kind of, crazy defense where you got guys passing off coverage and they pass it off to the wrong guy or whatever. And you're just like, what the hell? And, better QBs and better, more seasoned offenses. They just right now they look like the ultimate one and done team. Like they might make the playoffs, but they're going to get slaughtered. Is what it kind of looks like right now. But I'm kind of getting ahead of myself. I hope during the bye week they get something figured out. Maybe, like I said, I was half joking. They're going to come out and they're going to put Rashawn Gary next to Blake Martinez at inside linebacker, like they did with Clay Matthews, which would be a mistake. But
no, but I think if you're talking about internal fixes, I think getting Rashawn Gary on the field more and playing him on the line, it shouldn't be a shock that he's a disappointment. This is his first year playing on the outside.
And the reason I say it's a disappointment is his 12th overall pick, and he's a fucking project.
Right.
That's not good. That's just not good.
But we're going down the same path where we're projecting guys into something that they aren't. So
I know. I know. It's kind of the definition of insanity,
Yes, it is.
But
we're living
still, to me, I don't want to. It's easy to say if you're picked in the first round, whether it's 1 or 32, that you should just, be a plug and play guy. I think the top 10 you really should plug in and go difference maker. 12 is pretty close to that, right? But in my mind, if you're a first round pick, period, you need to. You don't have to be an all-pro. You don't even have to be a Pro Bowler, but you need to be a starter, and you need to make a difference. And Rashawn Gary, maybe it's a quote luxury that he's depth because they have the Smith brothers, and I'm like, okay, I get all that, but why'd you pick him? There were other needs. There were other positions.
Exactly.
That is what I don't get. Well, if you're projecting him 3 years from now, I'm like, I don't know.
Exactly.
So he's like a luxury of depth right now at a position where, do you need depth at outside linebacker? Sure you do. You need depth everywhere, but there's other glaring needs on the team that could have used a higher pick. So,
well, we went in this year with a lot of needs, and we went and got Rashawn Gary. He played 16 snaps yesterday. There were 70
total snaps. And you know who outplayed
him?
Kinsley Keke outplayed him.
And he only had 11 snaps. So exactly. Guys that we've drafted either high or we're expecting a lot from. Rashawn Gary played 16 snaps yesterday. Montravius Adams played 15 snaps. That is just not going to cut it.
And Josh Jackson 0. And Oren Burks played like 2.
And he's the most surprising. I was really high on Josh Jackson when he came in, but now Will Redmond is active on game days and Josh Jackson is not.
He's inactive. He's not even active to be like a backup. He's freaking healthy scratch.
Healthy scratch. Inactive for the game.
Death sentence.
Yeah. Not worrisome.
Yeah. All right. Let's get to the game. They got a lot to figure out in the bye week, obviously, but hey, 8-2. They're a flawed team, no doubt, but hey, sitting pretty for the most part. Okay, so we did talk about the Chargers a little bit. I think we still need to kind of go back to that a little bit because I mean that was kind of it seemed to be an aberration, kind of an anomaly. But the reason I bring that up is the first quarter of this game against the Panthers looked a lot the same. Packers go out there, the defense basically they did the bend but don't break. They gave up a field goal. They were marching right down the field, all that kind of stuff. And then the Packers they had freaking pre-snap penalties again. They got special teams shit in the bed all over. The first quarter looked like a carryover from. And I'm going, man, this does not look good. And then they finally kind of woke up and started getting moving, and things started moving when they actually got Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams involved again. Because last week, with when Devontae came back it was like the Devontae show at the Chargers, and he had I didn't realize this until the other day. He had 11 targets against the Chargers for 41 yards. That's horrible. I mean, 11 targets for 41 yards, do the average. Mm-hmm. But I mean, Devontae played great in this game. He had that one long ball batted away, but Rodgers underthrew him. If he hit him in stride, it's a touchdown. He had to kind of slow up for that. So the fact that Rodgers' deep ball is a little bit off, not by it's not yards off, but his arm strength is down a little bit. I mean, and I'm not shocked. It's not a precipitous drop, but it's off a little bit. It was also pretty windy yesterday, but anyway, so the game looked like it was going to turn into the LA Part 2 after the first quarter. I'm going, oh my god, they look so listless. They're so they had another thing where they freaking called a timeout and then they had delay of game. Yeah. Out of a timeout. That is like beyond inexcusable. I don't know. I honestly don't know how that happens, and I'd love to know how often that happens with other teams because man, it just seems like it happens tough.
Well, when does that ever happen? That hasn't happened before.
It has.
When? I don't think it's happened.
Earlier game this year. I can't remember.
Yeah,
Eagles?
really?
Maybe Eagles?
Well, okay. All right.
There was an earlier game where we came out of a timeout and we had to delay a game. I was like, my God. Because we were talking about it. We were messaging about it.
It's not, it's not like it happens all the time. No. But once is egregious.
Maybe that's when I was running to get beers at the stadium. I don't know.
Yeah, could be.
Okay. So they did get better, going into the second quarter. And like I said, when they got Aaron Jones, Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams are a hell of a combination. I mean, Aaron Jones by himself, that guy, when you watch him,
yeah,
he glides. Mm-hmm. Those elite players. I remember somebody described this about Charles Woodson when he came to Green Bay. Because when Charles Woodson first came to Green Bay in like 2006, he was in the prime of his career. He obviously stayed here and he got towards the tail for the tail of his career. But when he was here, people said when he would run and practice and all that, it's so effortless. They're just the athleticism, and they look like they're just gliding. And I mean, Jones, that first burst he has is ridiculous, and he makes it look so easy. And then Jamal Williams, like I said, he's like the perfect complement back. He's getting better. So when you get those guys both involved, I mean, hell, Rodgers didn't throw a touchdown pass again. He's had 2 games this year where he didn't throw a single touchdown pass, and I think we won them both.
And Aaron Jones was not even throwing up one ball in the passing game.
Crazy.
Yeah, that's weird.
Well, how did that happen? I don't know. Now they had Devontae. Maybe that's why.
Well, I think it was second down in the third quarter with roughly 2:25 left in the third quarter. They threw a pass down the sideline to Devontae Adams, and he completely overshot him by 3-4 yards. If you watch that play again, underneath, Aaron Jones was wide open. Yeah. And if he would have seen him and not been so keyed in on Devontae Adams,
I know exactly what you're talking about. It would have been a touchdown, I think.
Yes,
might have been. Yeah.
I mean, it would have been either a touchdown or dang close. But I mean, he had Green in front of him. If he would have caught the ball at the 20-yard line, I mean, he had it. So those are the plays that have to happen.
He was keying in on Devontae Adams because when you watch him on the drop back, he never even looked where Aaron Jones
looked to the right. Never looked.
And I mean, I think it's fair to say that Aaron Rodgers is, people are saying, oh, he's learning how to be a game manager. I don't think he's a game manager, but what he is learning is that, holy crap, I got a weapon here that's a running back that can catch the ball, and that is something he's never had.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so I think he's still just learning that. I bet you there's times when he's watching film and he's looking at that, he's going, oh my God, I had him wide open as if he was, Greg Jennings in his prime, and it's a freaking running back. So in a way, it's a good problem to have. But you can't be leaving touchdowns out there. But,
so we're being all doom and gloom, but I flipped on the 49ers game. Mm-hmm. They're getting smoked.
The 49ers?
They're getting smoked. It was just they're down 21-10 and they just punted.
Oh God. It was 10-0 before we came on here.
I know. They're getting smoked.
Well, I'd love to know what Jimmy Garoppolo's doing because
he did nothing.
He seems like he.
I mean, after I flipped it on.
Many interceptions?
He has one interception.
I flipped it on when it was 13-10.
Because Seattle, Russell Wilson's playing out of his fucking mind this year.
And San Francisco has 3 turnovers, 2 fumbles lost, and an interception.
There you go.
That'll do it.
There's our formula. Need those Smith brothers to force them.
Ooh. Jimmy Garoppolo's had 3 turnovers in that game, 2 fumbles and an interception.
He's responsible for all of them. Wow.
Responsible for all of them.
Well, because they're on him.
Yeah, they were.
They're going to town on him.
Yeah, I don't think Garoppolo is that good. I mean, I don't think he's bad, but he's like average. People are making him out to be whatever. He is a game manager kind of guy.
Yeah, he's average. Average is not bad.
No, that's true.
That means there's
play.
There's like what you could say. There's 15 quarterbacks that are better, 15 that are worse. He's like I don't know. I put him like near like Dak Prescott. You know.
And Dak Prescott just got what? How much money did he get? Or did he get paid, or is he about to get paid?
No, he's not paid yet.
I don't know that. Yeah, he might not. Maybe he won't.
When do we play Seattle?
Well, somebody will pay him.
When do we play?
Yeah,
Seattle?
somebody will pay him. You're right.
What's that?
When do we play Seattle?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
When do we play Seattle? Because we're playing the whole NFC
We don't play
West.
Seattle.
We don't. I thought we played the whole. Playing the AFC. Do you play? Wait a minute. We're playing.
We play the NFC East this year. So we play all teams in the NFC East. And then based off of where you finished previous year, which you were 3rd last year or 4th last year, then you face. It's just like how we every year we
think we're playing NFC West,
AFC North, AFC West.
Yeah.
We play. It's the same thing in the NFC. We switch conferences. So this year we're playing all teams in the NFC East, but we also face the 3rd ranked team in the NFC West, and then the 3rd ranked team in the
in the AFC West. That's the Chargers. The Chargers.
No, this is the NFC.
No, I know, but which division are the Chargers in?
Oh, they're in the AFC South or AFC West, excuse me. So we're playing them this year. We're playing all teams in the AFC West.
Yeah.
AFC or NFC West. I got you. Okay.
So okay. So whatever. I don't mean to make this about Monday Night Football because
no, that's good.
But
breaking news, right?
Okay, but so who should I want to win this game? Because I kind of feel like we should want Seattle to win because we're probably going to end up in the wild card hunt, right? Like there's a very good chance of that.
There's a very good chance we're looking at a 1st round bye the way things are going.
Honestly, if you're looking at it from a schematic standpoint, you want San Francisco to win, just because then we're guaranteed to at least get one of the byes if we finish out. And we, if Seattle loses their 3rd game, that's going to be their 2nd loss in the NFC. That's a bigger deal in the whole scheme of things.
What is Seattle's record right now?
It's good. Okay.
7-2.
Yeah.
They're
right there with us. So I mean, So I guess okay.
Yeah. Right. I got to think all these teams, including us, obviously, are kind of flawed. I mean, there's similar records, but the only one until just now that seemed to really be kicking ass was San Francisco. But I mean, hell, the frickin' Saints lost to the Falcons at home.
Bad.
And that's the part of me that kind of just raises my eyebrows. Like we got just manhandled from the media and fans after we lost to San Diego, and nothing's being made to the fact that a 1-win Atlanta team went into New Orleans. And
I'm sure down in Louisiana they're pasting them, but
probably. But the national media is not making a big deal of it. They're just like, whatever. But we lost to San Diego, and we get what do we get? We get backhanded, punched. We get kicked in the balls. So,
you're just listening to the critics. Got to turn that stuff off.
Never read the comments or never listen to the comments, and I'm one of those ones that does. So
unless they say, "When are you doing your next podcast?"
There you go. There you go. Very well. Very nice. Okay, so I'm gonna hop down the list here a little bit more. Lancaster. I'm reading some of your notes here, Jerry. Lancaster and Goodson were on. Yeah. Is it B.J. Goodson? Is that guy's name?
Yep.
Okay. Tyler Lancaster. He's a defensive lineman, right?
Pretty much a nose tackle. Yeah.
Nose tackle. Okay. Kevin King. You have on here. He is such an enigma. Man, is he? He's inconsistent. Like when he's good, he's damn good. When he's bad, boy, does he blow it. He is nowhere in between.
Yeah.
There was a stretch where he was playing really good. I mean, he was tackling awesome. He was pass. I mean, he looked really good. And then when he gives up big plays, he's like nowhere in the picture. He's like it's strange. We need more consistency out of him. He's been banged up again, but I mean, his ceiling appears to be pretty darn high because when he does play well, he can tackle, which I like to see. But man, there's sometimes where he just gets smoked on routes and he's not even in the screen. It's just weird. I mean, I don't know what you think, Jeremy.
There was one play in the second quarter where the whole defense was playing man-to-man, and he was playing like a zone, and DJ Moore came over the middle and caught the ball and went like 25 yards down the sideline. I was like, what are you doing, dude? So I don't know if it's just a lapse, it's a mental lapse, because there were multiple plays yesterday where he was in a different zone, like literally the fourth down play, and maybe being that it was snowy and the ground was very, hard to get traction, that could have contributed to it, but he was nowhere near that Carolina receiver on that fourth down when he caught the ball. So I don't know. I see Jair Alexander around the ball more so than anybody else on this team. I mean, he's always in the ball, whether he's, getting the receivers catching the ball in front of him, he's there.
Yeah, that's right.
There's no doubt about him.
I agree.
Kevin King, like you said, he's either real high and he's intercepting the ball or he's getting burnt.
Yeah, there was another play where Kevin King, he was, like you said, he was in some goofy, he was in like the wrong defense and he passed a guy off it was a crossing route, and he passed it off to nobody. So what he did was he just left his guy and you're like, what?
That was the one I was telling you about, was when DJ Moore caught it and went up the sideline for 25 yards.
All right. So yeah, I talked a little bit about Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams. I mean, that's great. That's like one of the best running back duos they've had since, I guess you could say, Levens and
Bennett.
Bennett. And Aaron Jones, he might be the most talented running back they've ever had. I mean, he's not as big and as imposing as Amon Green, but man, he's just so fast and smooth. It's impressive if he can stay healthy and all that. And I mean, he leads the NFL in touchdowns, for Christ's sake. I think McCaffrey came into the game, went in the lead, and then he with like 12, and then I think
they like traded places. Yeah.
So Aaron Jones had 3 more yesterday, and like I mentioned earlier, it's crazy. Rodgers has had multiple games where he hasn't thrown a touchdown, which is just absolutely nuts. And I think they won both games, which, I mean, that's good, but it's just strange, the thought of Rodgers going multiple games without throwing a touchdown is very odd. Does not compute, but I'll take it.
You can have stats, you can have wins. What do you want?
Oh, yeah, I want wins.
And I think he's finally getting around to that too. I think he is.
Yeah.
I mean, it still looks a little painful for him at times. He wants to chuck it, but
But you know what, though? I think the actual leader in him is coming out. I don't know if you heard the press conference today where he was telling the media, saying, you know what, we're in a bye, but I don't want this team to lose focus. You know?
I think he said it was like carry the G with you outside of here.
Right. Yep. That's great. We haven't had a leader in Aaron Rodgers until this year, literally.
You're right. He's never been a guy who's been kind of like spoke up or been kind of rah-rah, and you're seeing more of that. That's good. But he knows he's the longest tenured guy.
Mm-hmm.
What was the other? Actually, when you talk about the buy and all that, Devontae Adams, he's going to stay in Green Bay and rehab the foot. Which, I mean, you figure you go big deal, but I think in the past that probably wouldn't have happened. If this happened last year, I don't think he would have done that.
Likely, yeah.
No.
But he's dedicated to getting healthy, so more power to him.
And I gotta say, man, and you guys have heard me say this before, and I'll just say it again. I gotta eat some major crow on Devontae because his route running is like it's art. watching that guy. Him off the line, and his feet are so fucking quick. It's crazy. I mean, he's not the fastest guy, but line of scrimmage, 5 to 10 yards up, he just smokes guys. Yeah. It's impressive to watch, and he doesn't drop anything anymore. I mean, he dropped that one ball because it was slightly underthrown, and the cornerback came in. He caught it, but bringing it down, the guy swatted it away. I'm not going to call that a drop. I'm going to call that a pass defense.
Right.
But man, I mean, I know there was a few years ago when he was looking like he was just on his way out, and he's really impressive, and I'm glad to be wrong about him.
Totally. You know, there is one guy there's one guy that I think we've talked about here and there, and yesterday he was non-existent. MVS.
Him and Geronimo have been non-existent. Did you see? I saw somewhere on Twitter that I think the past 3 games combined, Geronimo Allison and MVS have caught like 6 balls for 48 yards or something. It's just obscene. There is nothing after Davante Adams on the wide receiver corps. The next thing is Aaron Jones. And you could say maybe Jamal Williams. And then I'd say Jimmy Graham. And then everybody else. They got nobody after Davante Adams. And, you know, if they MVS is.
Jimmy Graham caught a ball yesterday.
Yep, he got some yak.
I saw it happen.
I called him Jimmy Ed West Graham.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
He looks like the old 80s / early 90s possession tight ends right now.
He is.
He's big, but he is so fucking slow. It is painful to watch that guy run.
Right.
Man alive. Do you remember in Jermichael Finley's heyday how freaking elite of just an athlete he was? I'll never forget when it was the playoff game against, I think it was the second year in the league, against Arizona. That one that went into overtime, and it was Rodgers' first playoff game, and Jermichael Finley had 150 yards receiving in that playoff game, and he was just putting on a show. He was, man.
Oh, I don't want the Packers to play either of these guys on their defenses.
And I don't want our defense to play their offense either.
It's 21-18. So Wilson got a ball stripped, and then they had to punt on their next possession. So I don't understand what's happening.
Part of it's kind of let them beat each other up, right?
Right.
I mean, sure, but I don't know that they're going to beat each other up enough that's going to matter in 2 weeks.
No, San Francisco's scary, man, and that's on the 4 of the next. I think 4 of the last 6 games are on the road.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, if they win this one, they're super for real. Because I don't know. I guess I haven't read too much about that, but I mean, I feel like were they falling into the case of the Patriots always fall into? And there I fell into mentioning the Patriots first, but wow. Did they play a lot of teams that did not have good records?
Yeah.
Did who play it? Wait, which was Seattle?
San Francisco.
I don't think. Yeah, San Francisco. I don't think they played many teams with a great record.
San Francisco has played 2 teams that have had a winning record.
Okay. So I mean, but if they're able to hold Seattle off tonight, they're for real.
No doubt.
So, yeah.
With the Packers, when you think about them compared to the other teams in the NFC, it's they haven't played a complete game. What's the closest game they played to a complete game? Maybe the Raiders. Maybe. Other than that, and I mean they played pretty well there, but the defense and I didn't even put it on the list.
I feel like I don't know. I don't want to be an apologist, but I don't want to be all doom and gloom when we have such a good record.
No, what I was going to say is we haven't even played a complete game yet, and we're 8-2. But so it's if we start playing complete games, we should start dominating.
Yeah. How many teams play complete games though? I always look at it.
There it is.
I kind of baited you on that, didn't I?
He did.
So you get
you
get the score on that one.
The NFL is built around parity and all that. I mean, no doubt.
Yeah.
Part of me looks at the league and goes, "Man, everybody's mediocre," or is everybody really good and the quality of the product is good? Kind of somewhere in between, I imagine.
Well, So we were
Oh,
kind of talking about that
the
yesterday.
Dolphins won 3 straight games. The Dolphins.
Well, why not?
What the hell?
Why not?
They looked like they're going to be all-time bad, and then they won 3 straight games.
Well, I think the officiating has been playing a bigger and bigger role. Like
I didn't even put that in there either.
Yeah.
One thing I did want to get to, though, before I lose sight, was in here.
Yeah.
Jay Sternberg, rookie tight end. So he was on IR designated return. I think they activated him last. I believe his first game back was the Chargers game.
Right.
And he only played 1 snap, and there was like a false start on the left guard. That wasn't even his fault. So he didn't even get a chance to play. But he played a decent amount of snaps in this last game, and they actually used him blocking, which I didn't see coming. But he did. He didn't do great, but he wasn't Jimmy Graham bad. Which actually Jimmy Graham's improved his run blocking a little bit.
Right.
But he played okay, and I mean he hasn't. I didn't think they were going to activate him, number one, because I'm like, man, rookie tight end who missed most of training camp got hurt. I figured they'd shelve him for sure. Just chalk it up to like a redshirt year or something like that.
Well, I think Tanyan's injury kind of put a little
true
hamper to that, because without him, then they only have 2 tight ends, and I think they were kind of forced to bring Sternberger back because depth-wise they were really thin. That's
true, but you got to. If they're smart, you would think they're going to try and find ways during the bye to get him involved. Because what he's good at and what he was good at was catching the ball. He wasn't a blocker.
Mm-hmm.
So if they can give Rodgers, he's a rookie, but a decent pass catching tight end, it'll be interesting. So, early returns on him playing are not bad, but they haven't really, integrated him in the passing offense. But, let's face it. Basically, where I'm going is if they put him in there and he shit the bed run blocking, he'd probably never see the field regardless.
Mm-hmm.
They'd just be like, get out of here. But now that they're like, okay, can a little bit do that. Hopefully they got some plans for him. Hopefully. You made a good point about Tanya. Right. I forgot about him. He got that hip injury.
Yeah.
And man, he's been out for 4 games. You get the feeling they're going to shut him down.
It's a difficult injury.
Yeah. So, Bakhtiari. Don't know what's going on with him. He's been all pro the past couple of years. He hasn't played. I wouldn't say he's played bad this year, but he's playing below his standard.
Yes.
He's got to have at least half a dozen penalties already this year.
And false starts.
Yeah. And man,
what's up with that? I don't understand how we were able to with the hard counts and the tricks, why are we tricking our team now? What is that?
Nice, well put. Why are we tricking ourselves?
I don't understand. Like the other teams aren't getting that's us. That I'm very negative about that. Like to me, those are that's just it's like one part sloppiness, but one part like unrehearsed. Like didn't you practice this? Like what are you doing all week that your timing is off? Like what isn't that what the practice is for?
Yeah. I don't know the answer to that, to be honest. Go ahead.
It's mostly discipline. It's staying within your cues and knowing your role. And I think Bakhtiari being the left tackle, he's always got to get out, and he's always facing one of the top rushers on the other team.
And he's always on his heels. Think about
He's always on his heels. So he's always trying to get the first step and being able to get out there so that he is face up on a rusher. I get all that. But how many false starts he's had this year? It's more than any year in his career.
Oh, wow.
And it's concerning. I think he's hurt. I mean, I think that's part of it too.
Yeah. I would think so too. Or because if his play is dropping off that precipitously, that quickly, again, he's not average. It's not like he's terrible, but he has gotten whooped on a couple plays for sacks where you're like, he didn't even lay a hand on the guy. And these are Bosa rolled his ass. And
stuff that we've never seen.
Yeah, and then this last game, another guy who I can't remember even who it was, but he ran right the hell by him, and it was like he didn't even have a chance to lay a hand on him. And then, the play on the goal line at the end of the second quarter, I think it was first and goal actually with 2 seconds left.
Yep.
I love the decision. I hated the play call, but when you watch the execution, you've always said this, Jeremy. Bakhtiari didn't. He whiffed on that block. He was supposed to slash inside on Gerald McCoy, and he was laid off the snap, and he whiffed him. And that's how McCoy was in the backfield. Basically, he almost took the snap. Right. It was, but if you watch the replay, I was like, Bakhtiari it was ugly.
Yeah. There was multiple blocks on that play that were missed, and that's why I always say, it's always easy to say that was a terrible play call, but go back and watch it and see the execution of the call. Were the blocks all in tune? Were the receivers doing what they're supposed to do? And on that play, the offensive line in general did a really poor job of containing the interior rush because everybody got there. Everybody got there.
Yeah, and like I said, I liked the decision.
I
didn't like the play call. I mean, they sat there and hemming and hawing for like 5 minutes in real time, and that's the play call they came up with when they were figuring out whether or not to put Crosby out there for the field goal or to do that. And part of me goes, look, the execution was poor, but also this line is not built to run block.
No, it isn't, but we've also been bemoaning about them getting on 1st and goal inside the 5 and them never running the ball. So they actually did, and we just didn't execute.
Yeah, and I guess what I'm saying is when the other side, the defensive line for Carolina, I mean, they know you're going to try and run it. They damn well, I mean.
Gerald McCoy said he knew the play. He knew they were going to run it, and that's why he was so quick to it.
And part of me is going, if he knew that, were they keying off on something? I mean, what the hell? I don't know. Right. But yeah, I mean, that was an impressive defensive play, but it was a stupid play call. But I like the guts to go for it. I don't have a problem with that. And even LaFleur's been pretty refreshing because he's admitted when things are pretty egregious, he's not surly like McCarthy. He'll call it what it is. He even said in the press conference, he's like, some of the substitutions looked way out of whack, and we were too slow to do this and this and that. And those are things you'd never hear McCarthy say. No. He would just say, "We'll get that cleaned up," And LaFleur owns that stuff, and he owns the obvious. Is basically what I said. That's good.
Yeah,
I like that, and he doubled down on saying, "I would have done it again. I just would have picked a better play." So that's.
And he's owned his challenges early on in the year that were like, "Why would you challenge that?" So I think so far he's showing that he has no problem admitting fault, and I think that comes down to the rest of the team that the accountability factor is pretty high, because the coaches,
Yep. Okay. So the last thing I got here, special teams, not so special. I can't believe these special teams are basically approaching Zook level, which I didn't think was possible. But man, they're there. They have negative yardage on punt returns this year.
Yeah.
Negative. I think they're -1.
Yeah.
Which is, I was reading somewhere, it's like the first time in 40 years that a team might finish with 0 or negative. When you watch their gunners and you watch their blocking, I can see why they have negative. I don't know what their scheme is. I don't know what's going on. It's frankly, it's embarrassing to watch.
Yeah, I mean, I think it all there's definitely some missed blocks and miss execution, but they haven't had a legitimate punt returner all year. Well, I should take that back. They had Trevor Davis.
Yeah, and what I'm saying there, though, is that I mean, I don't even think Desmond Howard could break one off with this blocking scheme. There's no way to go.
Yeah.
It's brutal. And hopefully one day, and it can happen this year, but one day they'll try and treat special teams like a weapon. And I mean, even J.K. Scott has leveled off, and he's not been very impressive in the cold.
J.K. Scott had a horrible game yesterday. 35 yards net yardage. Really poor.
Yeah. And he was like all pro to start the season. Then he leveled off a bit, and now if he can't punt when the weather's cold, that's a problem.
Yeah.
Because he struggled last year with punting in the cold, and I mean, I don't know enough about punting and physics, and I mean, I know the ball's a lot firmer, harder, all that kind of stuff, but something's got to give because he's been lousy in the cold weather.
Maybe we have to deflate them a little bit. Come on, take the bait. Take the bait.
Wait, actually, did you see? Someone came up with a great nickname. They call him JK-47. That's a good nickname. That's a good nickname. They call him, and someone else called him, I think it might have been Nagel or somebody else. They called him just the weapon, like air quotes, the weapon.
Yeah.
JK-47. But no, I mean special teams on the whole, they're damn near going to lose us. They haven't done it yet, but they're tracking to maybe lose us a game with how poor they're playing. It's bad. I mean, Crosby's actually doing pretty good. I'll give him that. But punting, everything around punting, the punting of the ball, the punt return, the kick returns, everything but the actual field goals is really bad. And I don't know what the hell they're going to do there. But so going into the bye, 8-2. They got flaws, but they got a lot of really good things going for them too. And, I think things are definitely looking up. And, the more they, it's plain as day that, and I think LaFleur is finally getting this, but the more you get Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams, not just Aaron Jones, but both of them involved, the more you're going to succeed. I think you get the feeling that when Devontae Adams came back, that both him and LaFleur and Rodgers were like, okay, we really need to get him going again. Well, if you force feed to Devontae, it's not going to work. So he'll get his. If they can start getting some play action or even, continue to run the ball with those guys, Devontae will get his. So it's going to be interesting. I'm curious to see the self-scouting and changes that come out of the bye.
Yeah.
That's all I got, boys.
Yeah, I think my two biggest things heading into the bye and coming out of the bye are obviously shoring up the pass protection. They need to get stouter there, and number two, they need to get stouter in the, and in general, they need to be stouter in the trenches, defensive line, offensive line. They're just getting killed on the defensive side of it, and that's why the run defense is so shoddy, and that's why they're always in 2nd and 1s, and they're not playing to their strength, which is to keep teams in longer yardage to gain situations, and they need to get to that point where they're stopping teams on 1st and 2nd down and making it 3rd and long. That's their MO, and that's their strength, is to keep teams in long distance situations, and they'll be successful doing that if they can force teams, to not get 8, 10, 12 yards per rush. So,
do you think they're going to sign a defensive lineman during the bye?
I hope they do. I truly hope they do, because right now I think they're a big body away from being able to at least be respectable in the run defense. Right now, they're just not even close to being respectable. Yesterday they committed more guys to the box. They actually had, Campbell, and they had
Kenny Clark played out his mind. He played great.
Yeah. But you know what, though? That's the problem, is that you cannot be so defined to just, contain yourself to the box and then leave the back end wide open. And they go against a good team like New Orleans, who has a weapon in Michael Thomas. They'll beat you over the top. So you have to have a good balance there. But it all starts up front and being able to stop the run.
Who's the other line? I agree. Who's the other linebacker? Is it Raven Green? Am I thinking of the right guy?
No, he's an IR.
Complete IR, like not designated return.
Yeah, he's not coming back.
So they use weight. So because Ibrahim Campbell was on the pup, he was not IR activated. So they get 2 IR activations. They use one on Sternberger. They're going to use one on somebody else, I imagine. Or they don't have to use it at all. But is there somebody else they might use that on?
They could. I mean, Raven Green's a possibility, but I think with Campbell back, there's no rush to bring him back and just let him heal. Yeah, I mean, who else? Technically speaking, Jason Spriggs is still on IR. I don't think they've waived him yet. So they could bring him back. But is that where we cut it?
God, that poor guy. I almost feel bad for him. That was just, I mean, that seemed like such a slam dunk pick. I can't blame Ted for that, because it looked fine. He looked like a plug-in guy, but he just totally whiffed on going from college to the pros.
And you know what?
I wouldn't be surprised, but I will say this, going back to the Patriots, Elliot, I wouldn't be surprised if the Patriots pick him up and he's a fucking all-pro. Did you see that they have Marshall Newhouse at left tackle.
Yeah.
He's still in the league, and now he's playing starting left tackle for the Patriots.
Yeah, man. This is off the rails.
You know who else is playing on the Patriots defense and playing well? Lawrence Guy.
Ex-Packer.
Right. He's playing really well.
All right.
That's it. What are you saying?
That's it. We're done.
I don't know what I'm saying. I'm saying I'm done.
Everybody that goes to the Patriots become a good player?
Oh my God!
And everybody else who goes to the Bears dies.
Oh, or the Vikings.
So the Patriots are the Patriots gonna beat the Eagles this week?
I don't know.
Am I looking at the right week here?
I mean, the first truly good team the Patriots did play this year, they got whooped. I mean, man. But Lamar Jackson, did you see that guy? The crop of young, dynamic quarterbacks coming out is sickening. My goodness. The spin move that he put on those Bengals, did you see that clip, Jeremy?
From yesterday's game?
When he he was running and he put a spin move on these two Bengals defenders, and I was sitting there by myself at my house, and it was dark. I was about to go to bed, and I saw this clip, and I went, "Oh my!" I couldn't believe it. Was disgusting.
Yeah.
I was like, "Holy shit!" The first thing I thought was, "This guy would be." You have flashbacks of Kaepernick. It's the back.
I think of Michael Vick, and there were so many people that were saying there was never going to be a generational talent at quarterback as good as Michael Vick, and here we have it with Lamar Jackson. He's
and then you got
phenomenal.
Deshaun Jackson and obviously Patrick Mahomes, and then the Bears fucked it all up and traded up. Wow.
Oh, I love it.
I do too. Let's leave it on that.
Yeah. Bears suck.
Yep.
Yeah. I think that we should end it with Bears suck and no go Pack go. Just
okay.
Bears.
The Bears still suck. The Bears still suck.
I think that wraps up your negativity today, guys. Dang.
I was pretty positive.
He was actually positive. I give him credit.
I know. All right, go Pack go.
Podcast.
Chair.
I know, right?